Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Anna Wolf in the Cabin. The following episode is with a friend of mine, Natasha Badenhorst, and Natasha lives in Thailand. She is a fellow artist. She teaches at an international school. She is specifically involved in the arts sector, and the reason why I got her onto the podcast is because, you know, Natasha's been a really great mentor for me as an artist, also within my teaching field. And I think this podcast you'd find really interesting. Natasha has a really great way of seeing the world. She has a really great way of helping one understand of what it means to move bravely into the unknown. And her life story is just incredible. So if you have found yourself in a space where you're asking yourself questions of like, how can I expand? How can I get even bigger than these fears and these lies that I'm telling myself? If that's ever an inner dialogue for you, well, sit back, take some time for yourself. It's not a very lengthy conversation. Chill out and indulge, because I can promise you, it's worth it. All right. So in today's conversation, I have an incredibly powerful human being. And this friend of mine, I met through my husband. And the first way that I was introduced to her was that she was exceptionally talented, a walking artist, just someone who is not afraid to go into the unknown and is not afraid to ask herself different or even better questions. And from the very first moment I did meet this person, I knew exactly all of that was being shown to me, that she was in fact all these different facets that Henk, my husband, explained to me that she was. And I couldn't help but make a part of these first few episodes of Anna Wolf in the Cabin. And we have her here. Her name is Natasha Badenhorst, but she also goes by the name of Asha Palm. And we will, during this conversation, find out a little bit more about these two entities that move in this world beautifully, ready to change and remind people that yes, we are not alone. So, Natasha, I want to ask you to introduce yourself to the listener.
So I am South African born, Natasha Badenhorst, living here in Thailand. I've been here for about 8 years now, and I currently work as a performing arts educator and creative specialist with an international school. And I'm very blessed to be able to work with students of all ages, from like grade 1 all the way up to grade 12. And I work with creativity like every day through media arts, performing arts, whether it's singing, whether it's with the high school band. It's just this like sort of blend of creative outlet that serves me really well, but I also get to inspire other new young minds and really help them foster a good idea or a good relationship with creativity.
That's really wonderful. What a cool way to spend your time. And tell me, Natasha, I mean, I know you in the capacity, I mean, obviously I know you're a teacher, but I also know you quite strongly as an artist. Where did that start for you? Was that before you started teaching, that you kind of knew you had this artist part in you that you wanted to go and explore?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I guess the word artist, like, I'm very humbled and grateful that you call me an artist because I believe that, I guess a part of me would like to be seen like that. Because from a very, very young age, I never really thought of myself as academically strong or inclined, and I struggled academically from a very young age. And I was very creative as a child. In primary and high school, I discovered drama. I was part of the drama classes at the Schoenhauer Studio of Drama. And that was like I went there like twice a week. It was also something that I needed to pay for on my own. So I would have a waitress job, an illegal waitress job, because I was too young to actually work at the time. But I made about 600 Rand I had to pay like 600 Rand per month to go to this performing arts school after hours of my normal school day. And I felt a sense of belonging. I felt like a sense of like this mattered to me. Like this is what I was supposed to be doing. But then I also saw this lens of how people viewed creativity. I also heard the voice of my dad saying, well, this is going to get you nowhere. And teachers always putting creative subjects down, never giving it a lot of weight. And I think for me, through many years of my life, I'm now 44 years old. So you can imagine how long that's been, from like the age of like 12 years old, discovering this world of creativity, realizing that that mattered to me, but feeling like it didn't matter as much to other people. That was interesting. And if I look at it now in the position where I am now, there is just so much that lies in between what I just said. So I think creativity has just been in me. It's been there from a young age, and it's molded itself into what I do now. It's like I've never been able to abandon the creativity. The difference is I wish I understood what I understand about creativity now when I was younger. And I wish I saw creativity through a much different lens, or a much different shaping or molding from the adults around me that sort of shaped my view on creativity. The relationship with creativity and me has just been there. It's like sometimes it's been my angel and sometimes it's been my demon, but I'm attached to it. I've been born with this like creative soul, and, you know, not so much sort of leaning as an academic student, but a very creative student. So to hear that word artist makes me feel some kind of value, you know, and I think it's important for us to acknowledge that we can all be artists, really, in our own ways, you know. So yeah, I would say that that's where the connection between me and creativity and the person and the artist sort of started merging.
And tell me, for you that's in an educational sector, how can we steadily get that pendulum to start swinging in the opposite way? And what I mean by that is, how can we steadily help adults, teachers, especially within the educational sector, how can we start approaching it differently? Like, are there ways that you're integrating it into the teaching and reminding these kids that, you know, you can study to be a lawyer, you can study to be a doctor or whatever it needs to be, but you can also do A, B, and C. Like, what is your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, that is a fantastic question. So I think my initial answer to you is to have conversations like this, and to have a lot more conversations, and to reshape the perception of creativity. Obviously, for me, I always now look at creativity as a fundamental tool to make money. And I want my students to know that there has to be a purpose in what we're doing. I personally have 4 pillars of what I consider the 4 pillars of creative success. So the first one is creative purpose. Like, why am I doing it? You know? Then there has to be a creative economy. What can I get from what is it that I'm looking to gain from that creativity? And then there's meta creativity. How am I thinking creatively about being creative? And then there's creative community. How do I take what I'm making creatively and share that with the community? And this is the message that I wish I got when I was younger. about creativity, because I was just told that creativity was the thing that we do for fun. And there's truth in that. We do it for fun. But we can also do it to make a livelihood. We can use creativity to make money or to get things. We can use creativity as a barter system. We can use creativity as a way to share knowledge, as a way to challenge societal issues, also as a way to celebrate things in society that are going well. A lot of the times people are so focused on using creativity to bring awareness to all the negative things in the world, but we very rarely sometimes celebrate the beautiful things that are happening through creativity. And this is where the creative purpose comes in. So even if the student wants to go off and become a lawyer or a doctor, creativity is going to be in their work. Even Einstein said that creativity is intelligence having fun, right? And if we challenge if we challenge academic perception by throwing in a splash of creativity, I believe personally that is when you're going to make that doctor a lot more successful, because that doctor is going to be able to use a creative sort of splash in their profession to stand out, or to invent something new, or to challenge the system. That's what creativity does. It challenges us all the time. It's this consistent reminder that we need to grow, that we're not stagnant, that we're not in sort of one place all the time. But I feel like I want to be a part of more than that. I want those kids, those creative kids at school, to know that, hey, you don't have to go and be a lawyer. You can be a musician. You can become an actress. You can become a media artist. You can do all of these things and make a lot of money. How many times, kids from my generation, or the adults now from my generation, when we were kids, oh, well, you're going to be an artist. Well, I hope you enjoy eating bread and drinking water for the rest of your life. That was the mindset that was put into me. So I never really thought of creativity as a way to succeed. I just thought that this is what I do. I needed a purpose, and this is all I knew. But I never really knew how to make it as important to my life as much as a student who would study, go and study to be a lawyer or a doctor. So that's my message for, I would say that is how I want to support these students from a very young age to look at creativity as a lucrative means of survival, and I don't just mean survival in the sense of like, I got to get through my day, but to like really become successful at it.
Yeah, and going back to your 4 pillars, one thing that I deeply struggled with was your first one, which is purpose. I think if someone, pulled me aside and said, look, you are great at singing and writing and so forth, but I think it is super important to understand where the escape and wanting to delve into something that took you out of your reality. This was in my case the case. I wish someone showed me where it stemmed from. Like, where did your, let's say, your painting or your wanting to write music or lyrics or whatever it is, what was the caterpillar that propelled you into that space? And for me, it was the need to want to escape my environment, the very volatile domestic violence household. So for me, that's how art was my escape. But then what happened in my journey, and I think so many people can relate, is you then start attaching your outcomes and your expectations of your art to your self-worth. And I wish that I could have been nurtured in the sense of, listen, yes, sure, this was the thing that kind of propelled you into that direction, but it's fine, and you don't have to give yourself a hard time for it. It really served you at that time. But in conjunction with that, how can we now find that purpose? Okay, that's where it stemmed from. That's where it was born out of the pain. How can we then now turn it into something beautiful? And I was never taught that. So I love that is part of your 4 pillars, because purpose, if you don't have purpose, then there's no intention behind things. And in fact, you're left very empty at the end of the day. I want to get to my next question. In a busy world, especially, I'm friends with so many people who have these very intense 9-to-5 jobs, and they desperately want to get that book done, and they desperately want to finish that script or that novel or whatever it is, okay? And they just either find themselves in a position of procrastinating. How many of my friends, and I love you if it is you, but would leave videos on social media and go, oh, I'm supposed to finish my novel, but I am procrastinating. And, that's just me. That's just what I do. And people know me as that, and they kind of laugh it off. But I'm going, dude, we only have this one life, right? And I know it's easier said than done. I'm not saying it's easy, but we only have this one life. How would you say, in a busy lifestyle, in a busy world, in this flesh-driven world, 3D world that we live in, how can we, after a long day of work, sit at that desk and finish that script or finish that song? What is your go-to method?
Okay, so that is a very important question. So I want to say this. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. And I know that sounds really, really cheesy, and it probably sounds quite cliche. And I mean, we've all heard that phrase, well, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. So because the third pillar of my meta creativity, being able to think about being creative, like having tools to organize yourself. As artists, we get we get creative blocks. We feel like the world is stepping in sometimes, where we really wanted to come home and do that thing, but we feel like, oh, well, something else came up, and all of those things. Now, in order to succeed creatively, the one thing that I feel artists struggle at is being organized. We very often organic in the mind. We feel a sensation. We hear words or voices in our head, and there's a melody or there's some kind of emotional reaction, and that becomes our inspiration. And we sit on it for a while, and we delve in it for a while, but we don't have a place to put it. Now, writing or journaling is one thing. That's a great thing. Or taking voice recording notes, singing a tune into your recorder, that's great. But what are you going to do with it? So I use a thing, which is, I don't want to say my thing, but I've taken the rule of thirds in photography, and I've sort of expanded that into what I call the pyramid of 3. So I want you to imagine a 3-dimensional pyramid that can rotate, and each side has a triangle. And if you look at one side, there are 3 points of the triangle, right? So you've got 1, 2, 3. So depending on the creative assignment that you've set for yourself, let's say maybe it's a script. So all I have to do is get through 3 steps. If I look at the one side and I label it 1, and I go up to the next step, which is 2, and I get to 3, I've completed 3 steps for the time that I set that. I flip the triangle, and I now have another 3 steps. And I go, okay, 1, 2, 3. Instead of trying to see my creative project as this big, massive outcome, the Japanese have this word called Kaizen. And Kaizen is a practice of small achievements to get to bigger checkpoints in your life. And if we look at our creative projects as checkpoints and not destinations, then we can make little steps to get through to those checkpoints. So if you write one song, you completed the song, that is a checkpoint. It is not the final destination. That one song, that one creative thing is not the be all and the end all of what you're going to do. You're going to make more and you're going to keep making it, right? And you need to be enjoying making it. Otherwise, then creativity becomes a job. And it's important that we can turn creativity into a job, right? It's important that we can turn creativity into our careers, but not to the point where it sucks out the passion, right? So sometimes you can be doing creativity and you love it, but then the moment you start asking for money for it, it's like, and it becomes your bread and butter, you can struggle with that. So the pyramids helps me to organize and break my creativity or my creative projects into sort of small bite-sized things. So let's say I need 3 tasks to complete this song. So the first one is to write the concept for the song. So step one. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to write step 1, concept of the song. Break the concept down into 5 sections. Okay, so that concept is going to be turned into a verse, a chorus, a bridge, and an outro. That's step number 2. Step number 3, write sort of skeleton chords for that song, and that's it. If I feel like I have the energy to go beyond that and I have a little bit more time, say that process took me 20 minutes, a lot quicker than I thought it would be, then I go, okay, cool, let's flip the triangle, let's do another 3 steps. And then before I know it, maybe I've done 2 hours work on a creative project. And then I put it aside. And I also like the 1, 2, 3, so that I don't sort of sit and just invest myself creatively the whole night, because I still have a family. I still have other things that I need to do. I need to socialize. I need to be a part of life. I don't want to just be doing so much creativity that I sort of isolate myself. And I really want to rewrite that song of like the struggling artist, because that's what I was for many years, a struggling artist lost in my dismay of the world. And like you said, we got one life, and creativity is a part of it. But there's other aspects as well. So that pyramid of 3 for me can be really, really helpful.
I love that. As you were speaking, it reminded me of just the seasons of life, and mine is always give, take, and listen. Because I ran into a friend, and I was telling her, because I just love working out, and my go-to workout method is usually weights. And I said, I haven't been in the gym for months now, and I just love weight training. I love the mind to muscle. I like the breath control and so forth. And I said, I'm giving myself such a hard time for building my businesses and being so busy. And she just looked at me. She said, well, maybe that's okay. Maybe right now, the thing that you need is the moment to create, is the moment to set yourself up for the next season, which could potentially then be the season of whatever has been created, to now, let the seeds come up and see them grow and then become this thing that can potentially run on its own. And I think that's a dream for any artist, to be in a position where you've created a body of work that can kind of steamroll on its own and be that like lucrative income. I love what you said about the struggling artist. I think that's so old already. I think a lot of people are waking up though to that, and they're going, no, it doesn't have to be like that. I think especially with where the world is at, I think so many artists are deeply worried about AI and how it will influence creativity and so forth. And I have always been a believer that whatever I'm faced with, I will be in the moment and know, and this is just for me, of course, but I find kind of safety in my intuition. So knowing that if I'm faced in the moment with the world of AI, within that creative space, I find new ways to collaborate with it instead of being scared of it. Because even though it's technology, for me, the belief is that everything is the same thing. So if I can find ways to collaborate with my fear, if I can find ways to collaborate with where the world is at with technology, it's the same thing. So we're again, I always start my episodes with, we're capable of so much more. And I think expansion is so needed in order for us to grow. And contrast, and that's what AI is. Contrast is, it's giving us a tool to expand our actual work that we do, but to remind us that yes, don't get me wrong, I understand that what's being implemented is quite remarkable and quite smart and quite advanced, but at the same time, I can't help but think of it in a spiritual sense. It's almost there to remind us that we're bigger than that, you know. I want to, and then I want to get to my my next question. Are you using AI in any way to create music?
Yeah, again, very good question. I do use AI. I think before I tell you how I use it, let me tell you how I feel about the AI as well. I think a lot of people are afraid of AI because they might fear, well, is it going to take over, you know, our jobs? Like, is it going to take what I want to get out of my creativity? Is it going to take that away from me? And for a lot of artists like yourself, who's a full, professional artist, I mean, your livelihood is everything that you do, right? You are a full-time professional artist. For some people out there, that's it. Like, how is AI going to affect like professional artists? And I want to say that there's nothing to be afraid about it if you know what your purpose is. At the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, why do people engage in creativity? I'm not talking about from the creative or the creator's point of view. I'm talking about the person who buys the creativity, who buys into the creativity. Why are they engaging with the music? Why are they engaging with the films? So there is entertainment. There is something that they want and like. And I also know this about the human nature. I know this about human nature because I'm a human. Authenticity is the reason why we buy into something. Now, the things that I find authentic might be different, might be subjective, you know. What I mean by authenticity is that if you see a truth in it, or you see something that you identify in, and you feel like that person is honestly truthful in sharing that information, people will buy that. You know, the moment people hear AI generated tracks, that is completely just AI, there is an interest in it for about a few seconds. Wow, that is amazing. I can't believe that AI can do that. That is phenomenal. And I promise you, the appeal falls away really, really quickly. I was like that. I tried. I tested out a couple of things, and I was like, this is phenomenal. And then I did some experiments. So the album that I'm trying to produce now, I've got two products. One is my Usher Palm brand. So everything on Usher Palm is going to be original. Everything is going to be produced by me. Real life samples, my own production. And then there's another project that I have called Dragonflies and Circles, and that is going to be AI generative collaborations. And when I say AI generative collaborations, it's not relying on AI to just create the track and then, dump it onto a distributor and send it out onto all the platforms out there, but to just take a few elements from that and see how I can merge myself kind of like a cyborg, creative cyborg, and go, okay, so AI, this is what you can do. So the one thing that I've got some vocal ability, but my vocal ability for me there's no authenticity in it, in the sense that if I try to sing the lyrics that I create, right, I feel like there's a bit of the authenticity is missing because I don't identify myself as a singer. I can sing a good tune enough, but I don't identify as a vocalist. I identify more as a person who wants to be a part of the instrumentation and that kind of thing, So there are some sort of, with the AI generative project, going, okay, so how can I use some kind of interesting vocals in this? maybe sort of implementing it into that. But to solely allow AI to generate a track, I promise you, people will not feel some kind of human connection to it. I'm not, it's like, I know this argument has been made a lot about the calculator, like, before there was, people used to calculate mathematical equations on paper, and now we have a calculator to do it, and nobody's disputing the calculator. And AI obviously has far more advanced capability. But the moment you rely on AI to do what a human being can do, it cannot do what a human being does. But what it can do is it can help you generate a track. So one of the things that I do is I might have an idea in my mind, and I'll say, okay, AI, I would like to generate a organic house track with these types of fields. What plugins, or how can you help me, and what plugins can I use in Ableton? Now, one thing I know about creativity and producing music is that when you've spent like 3 years thinking you've learned all the tools in Ableton, trust me, you haven't learned enough. It's a continuous lifelong journey, right? And AI has given me the ability to sort of, I go, okay, so I want to create this kick drum. How can I process this in a good way? So AI is going to say, okay, so follow these steps. Just like I would be in a university. I'd go to university, I'd sit in a class, or I'd go on a course and I'd learn how to do this thing, this skill. The only difference now is that I now have the ability to do the exact same thing, but in real time. And I can create a creative project right away while learning how to do it at the same time. So I'll follow the steps that AI gave me, and it'll say, okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to drop in an EQ, you're going to chop off a bit of the 20s on the lows, you're going to chop off a bit of the 20s on the high. After that, we're going to drop in a compressor. You're going to dip the melody underneath the kick, and then after that, you're going to add in a saturator, and you're going to bump up the drive a bit. You're going to put on another EQ, and it's really helped me. It's helped me learn a lot of things a lot quicker. It's helped me improve the quality of my music. So artists have been solving problems since the beginning time, since we wanted to create things, even for lack of better knowledge, way back when, creativity, when humans started painting pictures on rocks back then. That was the purpose of painting cave paintings, was to record events, to leave things behind. It was a way of solving a problem. And I think if we are using AI as a means to solve our problems as creators, and those problems I don't mean as negative things. I mean, like, we have an idea and we want to get there, and art requires a lot of research. It requires a lot of thought. It requires a lot of organization. So if we're using AI to help us with that for me is a great way to be using it, as speeding up the organizational process, speeding up the research process, so that we can, getting back to your question of earlier, like how do we not procrastinate? Well, AI has become a fundamental tool for us now in meta creativity, to organize, to research, to collect data.
I think one of your gifts, and well, one of your many gifts or superpowers, is like your ability to communicate so beautifully. Because as I'm listening to you, you're taking me on this journey, and I think like just giving your insights on how you use AI just gives the creative who might be struggling with organization to give a little bit more of that step-by-step way of how they can implement it, so that it's not so overwhelming. Going back to that triangle effect of just baby steps. What a great description, and I truly hope that whoever is listening, that they'd be able to take that kind of like education away from it. I want to get to my very last question, which is the name Asha Palm. Can you delve a little bit into that?
Yeah. So Asha Palm is a beautiful place. I don't see it so much as a name. I see it more of like a creative space. So there was a time in my life where I was struggling and I somehow needed hope. I was struggling within myself. I was working for a company that was really challenging me on so many ways. I questioned reality. I questioned myself, and I came across this name, Asha, that was actually a name of one of my students back then. And here in Thailand, having a nickname is not uncommon. And having multiple ever-changing nicknames in Thailand is not uncommon. It happens, especially because a lot of the locals, when they try to say my full name, Natasha, they sometimes struggle. And so the initial idea of choosing Asha was going, okay, well, I really like this name, Asha. It's beautiful. And then identifying that Asha is also a part of Natasha, only to find out like a year ago that Asha, a year later, not a year ago, from the time that I discovered this name, Asha, that was already embedded in my name, Natasha, sort of some numismatic experience was sort of painting out something very important for me that was going to have a lot more impact on me at a much later stage. So anyways, I left this company and I went off to work for the company that I work for now. And I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of international people. When I tell you, like, I converse with people from different nationalities all day, that is absolute truth. And some of those members of the community are Hindi. And one of the parents said to me one day, hey, do you have any idea what Asha means? And in Hindi, Asha means hope. And at the time in my life where I really needed hope, I didn't realize that the hope was already there with me. So Asha is just a beautiful space for me. It's hope, right? And then Palm. So my partner, Melanie, and I have been together for 7 years. And she's always been fascinated by like coconut trees and palm trees. And she's sort of viewed me as a coconut tree or a palm tree. And for her, the representation, the way that she sees me, is a very beautiful gift. Being this palm tree that is able to bend sort of towards the ocean, towards the horizon, towards the sun, being strong, but being flexible and bendable. And when she painted me as this person, as likening me to this palm tree, it felt beautiful, you know? So hope and palm trees and beaches and suns and all of these things that come together in a simple name like Asha Palm, it creates a creative space for me. You know, I don't really see it so much as a name or an identity, but rather a place. So when I have a long day at work, I'm Miss Asha at school. Students call me Miss Asha at school, and on my documentations and when I go to immigration and I sign in my daily life, it's Natasha Badenhorst. That's my legal place or my legal space. A place where I just exist as me, as the person. But when I come home after a long day's work and I put down my bag and I get ready and I put on and I open up my software and I get my equipment set up and ready. And there I am in front of my microphones and in front of my laptop with Ableton open. I feel the shift that I'm going from the real world into this place called Ashapam. In the beginning of our conversation, you referred to me as an artist, and I'll tell you, I feel that very beautifully and humbly, and something that I probably in my own capacity and my own, I don't want to say sort of weakness, but in my own vulnerability, still learning to be a human being and just accepting beautiful truths about myself. And being able to say, okay, yes, I am that. I am an artist. And being an artist doesn't mean that I have to have this expectation of being a professional, all selling out hit artist. Like that's what makes you an artist. No, it doesn't. I think when you are engaging with art and you have a passion and you have a relationship with art and you are in it and you are creating art in whichever way that you want, and it's not just a simple coloring in the lines of a picture that somebody else drew, but you're the person creating the lines for that picture, then you are an artist. You're not just doing a creative activity. You are being creative. You are giving birth to creativity. So I think that when I come home and then I step into that space, Ashapam, the artist comes alive. It's like Ashapam is a space that I get to be an artist.
Natasha, thank you so much for sharing such a side to yourself. I love what you said about setting beautiful truths about yourself. I just love that. And I think hopefully when people leave this conversation, they will be setting more truths for themselves and planting their own seeds, and hopefully that grows into something that they deep down inside did know to be true and that they did know that they were capable of achieving. Thank you again. You're amazing. You're wonderful. I'm so honored to call you a friend, and you are that artist for sure. And I trust that this journey of yours will just be able to give people more of you in that Ashapam space. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for the conversation.
If you're here and you're still listening and you've made it to the end of this conversation, it's no mere accident. You are supposed to have been in this space, being reminded of who you are, aligning more steadily with your higher self. If you like what you heard, please leave a comment and subscribe for more stories from Anna, Wolf in the Cabin.